The story opens as Trevor Garfield, a school teacher, rides his bicycle in the morning to go to school. After a long ride, he reaches his school and skims through the corridors filled with students. As he passes through students, they keep making fun of him for not having a car, but he ignores all that. After finally reaching his class, Garfield starts his lecture about centripetal force, saying that he brought the cycle so he could show them something, but the students just keep chatting among themselves. Silence falls over class when he calls one of the students named Taiwan to the front and asks him to spin the wheel that he has separated from the cycle. Students are amazed when their classmate starts spinning along with the tire and starts chanting his name loudly. Just then, Garfield notices an empty chair of a student and opens a book that was lying there, only to find 187 written with his name on the book. He recognizes that the book belongs to a student named Dennis and rushes to the principal office so he can complain about it. He says to the principal that 187 is the code for homicide, and he thinks the student is trying to threaten him. Despite his panicking state, the principal seems calm as he says that the student might have found the number from some song and that there is nothing to worry about. When Garfield tries to say that the student is a known gangster and is trying to kill him, the principal interrupts him, saying that Dennis is a transfer student from Nixon, and since Garfield blows his chances of going back, he has to deal with the consequences. Garfield walks out of the office when the principal refuses to listen to anything else he has to say. He is walking in the hallways when the bell rings and students come rushing out of the classes. Garfield is suddenly approached by a student who stabs him repeatedly in the back and then runs away down the corridor and off into the LA streets. 15 months after the accident, Garfield has moved to the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles and is living alone in a house. He is excited when he gets a call from the Sun unit of a school and is asked if he is ready for work. They tell him that a science teacher named Iskander is on leave, and they want him as a substitute in her place. Garfield quickly accepts the offer, excited to go back to his dream profession. On his first day, he gets ready early in the morning and leaves the house after praying to God for courage and strength. He takes his car to the school and walks in the crowded hallways of the school, filled with the usual loud students. He is informed that he needs to go to Bungalow 86 to take his class. Garfield goes to his class, and without waiting for students to settle down, he starts writing on the board. Students laugh at how he writes gibberish, but he is not fazed as he starts to explain how science is like a detective who investigates the data by scratching the surface. He is interrupted when another teacher named Dave comes there and tells him that he is in the wrong class. Dave points out where he is supposed to go. Garfield follows the instructions, and this time he goes to the right room. This room feels more chaotic as the students seem unruly with the way they keep chatting loudly and laughing. The first thing he notices are some books thrown out of the window and a boy staring at them. He asks the student to pick up the book, but the boy refuses, not afraid of any punishment as he is already on house arrest and is wearing his tracking monitor on his ankle. Garfield remains calm as he starts to question the student and finds out that his name is Benny. He doesn't get a chance to start his class as Benny keeps making fun of him. Garfield doesn't back down as he gives a detention slip to Benny, telling students that if they disturb the class, strict action will be taken against them. Benny silently walks out with the paper in his hand, and when Garfield turns toward the board again, Benny sends the paper ball toward him. When the ball hits his back, Garfield is startled and quickly turns around, giving students another chance to laugh at him, but he just ignores their jabs. When lunchtime arrives, Garfield is eating alone at a table and is approached by Dave. Dave advises him that if students give him a hard time, he has to report to Larry, who is their counselor, so students will know who is their boss. He also warns Garfield against going to the administration, telling him that they don't care about teachers' issues. Just then, another teacher named Ellen, who teaches computer science, joins them on the table. The conversation turns toward Garfield as they ask him about his teaching career. Garfield explains that he taught at a school for 7 years. When he tells them his school's name, Dave instantly asks him about the incident where a teacher got stabbed and died. Garfield replies that they are just rumors because that teacher has survived, and due to his suggestive answer, Dave quickly figures out that he was the one who got stabbed. When Garfield confirms the information, Ellen quickly leaves the table, while Dave continues talking about how there should be drastic measures against such students. When he goes back to the class, he interacts with a girl named Rita, who grabs his attention by passing a crude comment about him. But when he asks her a question, She answers correctly. During the lecture, Garfield finds that some of the students belong to a gang named K.O.S., and Benny is their leader. The classroom gets empty instantly after the bell rings, and when Garfield is left alone, Ellen comes there. She apologizes for her earlier behavior at lunch, saying that she was just caught off guard. When their conversation diverts toward students, Ellen tells him that the original science teacher was 7 months pregnant when she kicked a student who was bullying her, so that is why she is on leave. Ellen suddenly asks him if he knows that the student will stab him, and Garfield tells her about the death threats he got from that student. This gives Ellen courage as she shares how she testified against Benny, who was convicted of assault and is now being threatened by him. She tells him how her car was broken, and she thinks someone is barging into her house, but she has no evidence to prove anything. Meanwhile, that night, Benny and his 2 goons find a boy spray painting on the walls, and after a small argument with the boy, Benny kills him on the spot. The next day, Benny is absent from school, and his ankle monitor is found by some garbage collectors. A few days later, Garfield picks Ellen up from the airport and brings her to his home. During the ride, Garfield seems extremely angry and keeps shouting at everyone. When they reach home, Ellen excitedly rushes inside, ready to meet her dog, but they are both shocked when they find that Jack has died. Ellen is very distressed by the situation and asks Garfield to leave her alone to deal with her sorrow. Meanwhile, Caesar paints a dog on a road sign, is suddenly hit by an arrow in his chest and passes out. When he wakes up again, he finds that one of his fingers has been cut off. He is rushed to the hospital, where Garcia and a lawyer meet him. He tries to say that Garfield was the one who did this, but they ignore him, saying that he is just doing this due to his conflict with the teacher. The hospital receives a letter with his finger, "Are you done?" the phrase Garfield repeatedly said to him, tattooed on it. A few days later, the police find a dead body in the river, and after some research, it is found that it is Benny's dead body. Another student named Steve and another K.O.S. member think that Garfield is the one who did this. Ellen also suspects him, but when she confronts him about it, he accepts the accusation without hesitation, talking about how people like Benny are evil and deserve this punishment. Later, Garfield witnesses Rita facing abuse from the K.O.S. Rita drops out of school to escape the abuse. Garfield is eventually fired after administrators find out that he had Rita over to his house for a tutoring session due to the unsavory implications. Caesar and the K.O.S., inspired by the film The Deer Hunter, corner Garfield at his home to keep him from leaving town after losing his job and get him to confess to killing Benny and cutting off Caesar's finger, which he does without any hesitance. They force Garfield into a contest of Russian roulette with Caesar. Caesar, in machismo mode, loads the revolver with 2 bullets. After each round, Garfield talks about the lost cause lifestyle Caesar has led. Garfield, on the penultimate round, takes his turn and survives. Instead of handing the weapon to Caesar, Garfield takes the next turn and the weapon goes off, killing himself instantly. Driven by his sense of honor and enraged over the failure of his revenge, Caesar insists on taking his rightful turn against the protests of his horrified friends and ends up killing himself. On graduation day, Rita is shown to have completed her studies and successfully graduated along with the now former K.O.S. member Stevie, who is filled with remorse and feels disillusioned with gang life. Rita offers a tribute to Garfield by reading an essay about him. The essay incorporates the theme of the Pyrrhic victory. Paco, the only other surviving member of the K.O.S., drops out of school, yet stays behind long enough to watch the graduation before disappearing into the city. A heartbroken Ellen resigns and leaves the school. The closing narration cites a 1994 MetLife Louis Harris survey stating 1 in 9 teachers has been attacked in school, and 95% of those attacks were committed by students, as well as the movie being written by a teacher. Our exploration of 187 comes to an end. Does the film's portrayal of survival both intrigue and disturb you? How does the depiction of survival in 187 resonate with the challenges of the real world? Join the conversation in the comments, Moon Explorers, and cast your vote in our poll on Does 187 disturb or intrigue you? Your enthusiasm keeps the movie magic alive. If you relish this recap, don't forget to hit subscribe and give us a thumbs up for more enchanting content. Thanks for watching.